Hello and welcome back to Kaleidoscope. This episode is called April Fools. It's our April edition and we've gone a little off script. I'm here today with two of the critical people who run and work in the community very hard at Westborough TV. So we're turning the camera around on them. And let me tell you, they're not that happy about it. Welcome, guys. We have with us today Aidan Horgan and Jim Schwab. It's really great to see you both, and I want people in the community to know the depth of your commitment to this community and to your profession, and to get to know you a little bit better. So we're going to start with Aidan because he's been here the longest, and I think that age has its privileges. So go ahead and tell us how long you've been here and what is the key thing that keeps you here?
Well, thank you for having us on.
Yeah.
In October, it will be 11 years that I've been here. I've only been on camera a handful of times, so you were able to pull me in. I am the old man of Westborough TV now. Because I was hired a few months before Karen Henderson, our general manager. So I think I have tenure at this point. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I say it every time someone asks me, what do you think about the town or anything like that. But I know Westborough better than any town I've ever lived in. So I used to live in Maynard, Massachusetts. Now I'm down in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. But I feel more attached and ingrained in Westborough than any of the other towns that I've ever been.
And that is because of all of the coverage you've done of every meeting and every event, because you're committed to the community. In the last week, how many different programming pieces did you film, edit, or administer?
Well, it depends on the week, but we are most days, we've got at least one or two things that we're taping, maybe two or three things that we're going out live with, multiple government meetings a week. I think in the past year, we had 900 plus new shows on our server, but we do it for the love of Westborough.
Good. Now, when you say cover them, how many are in studio and how many do you have to take all of your equipment and go somewhere?
So we have a few in-studio shows like Kaleidoscope. We have the 01581. We've done a few podcasts starring yours truly. We also do a lot with the journalism students at the high school. They come in and do their bi-weekly news, and then we'll go out and we'll cover concerts, we'll cover things at the Bay State Commons, we'll cover things at the Willows, and then we get into the government meetings where it's over at Town Hall, Forbes, the Senior Center. We get video from the Library Building Committee and the Board of Trustees, and we make sure that those are all available on our website and on YouTube so that no matter however you want to watch it, we have it.
Well, that sounds like a morning to evening schedule. I hope you get a break for lunch, that's all I'm hoping. Tim, you're newer to the organization, and yet you seem to have fit in very nicely in personality and temperament with the feeling about this place. Karen is a very caring, open person and wants the best for the town and the best for her employees and her clients, the people who are coming that they're taping. So tell us how it was coming into that environment and what your role here is, and then we'll go back and see how it differs from Aidan.
No, it was a very easy transition. I came here September of 2023. I had been previously working as a long-term sub teaching video production at Maynard, which I think they were kind of looking for because of Westborough TV's work with the journalism department here at WHS. And Karen and Aidan were both very welcoming, very easygoing. And I think what I particularly liked about this public access station is, one, they responded to my email asking for a job, and two, is that Westborough TV really does hold themselves to a higher standard than I think a lot of other local access stations. Nothing against those other local access stations, but we are really covering more than any other station I've seen. Every day there's something on the schedule. We're getting stuff out within the week, sometimes the day. And that was great for me. I like to stay busy. And
So your background in working with teens in high school helped you integrate really well into this journalism program, and bringing your skills of being a person who wants to be busy. This seems like a good home for you. And the chemistry between the two of you is really just great, because when you walk in here, whether you're just asking a question, or like when I walked in and just said, do you guys do podcasts? And just like that, everybody was like, okay, let's talk about it. How could we do it? There's an approachability with coming in here. It's not a terrifying place. And in fact, it's quite funny, and a lot of humor goes on around here. When you came in, your job title was and is?
Right now I'm a technical editor and producer, I believe is my official title.
So what does I know what an editor in a newspaper does, because I was one for a nonprofit, very large, 10,000 subscriptions. What is that in terms of technology?
So video editing, I mean, it's like taking the best pieces. Like if someone messes up a name, for example, you'll retake that section and then splice it into the videos, I guess, and overlaying maybe like footage of a sports game over commentary of a sports game.
And it looks seamless.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. It's
Yeah.
good editing you don't notice, I think.
Yes, because as you mentioned earlier, I have trouble pronouncing people's names. And so I have to do like 2 or 3 or sometimes 6 takes to get it right. And when I look at it, it doesn't even seem like I made one error. And that's really, I'm very glad. But there's humor in it. You just come in and go, oh, try it again. And it's not with a look of contention, like, could you get this right, lady?
Well, part of our job is making, part of editing is making, a normal event or a conversation like we're having seem perfect. And as humans, we're not perfect. But no, I think everyone has had that in their life where they're sitting in front of a camera, or they're getting taped and they're like, oh, I don't want to watch that, or I don't want to see that picture of me, or I don't want to hear myself. A lot of people have that adversity, and our job is to make them get their word out and make them feel good about what they're saying.
Good.
And so far, we haven't had any complaints.
No,
Yeah.
even when I've taken you on the road to this state capitol, to the senior center, to tape things, you've always come with the equipment and the congeniality to make yourself even integrate into places that are not the studio where you have everything. And how does that work when you have all that equipment here, when you go out into the community? What do you take with you? Is there somebody I don't see that has everything on a donkey that you take with all the equipment on it? How do
Yeah.
you get all this stuff? Don't tell me you make Tim do it, because he's the new guy. He has to carry everything.
I've usually been the donkey to carry things
Oh,
in. So.
okay.
No, I mean, definitely studio shows. We have 3 cameras. We can bounce in between. Those are multi-camera shoots are edited on the fly. So we have Karen in the control room right now, jumping between cameras, live editing. Though it's not a live show, we do live to tape is how they used to refer to it, because you would have a conversation like this and you would edit it on the fly, and you don't have to do as much post. For something on the road, we take our cameras, we make sure that we have microphones to get the audio. If we know we're going into somewhere that might not have the best lighting, we might bring some lights, which 10, 15 years ago, lights were big, heavy, hot. They were halogen bulbs, so they would blow if you accidentally touched them with your bare hands. The oils on your fingers would blow. But now things have gotten, technology has gotten better so that the equipment is lighter. We can be more on the go with things and get great, productions like at the State House where we had a great tour of the building and we talked to the state rep. And we didn't have to feel like you were just sitting in the studio. And we try to make, I think local access gets that between two ferns kind of feel, because a whole bunch of the time it's just on a curtain with fake plants behind you or however you want to make that set. And every time we have a new show come in, we try to do some set design so that it doesn't feel like the rest of the shows that we do. Sometimes you can't get away from that, but we always try to make each show feel individual and feel new and bring a sort of aesthetic that we haven't seen before.
You have an eye for the editing, and the term is fixing it. What's the term?
Well, it's just editing. Video
Editing, that's it, okay. And that takes a certain artistic as well as technological, and I think you have that same eye, and your other interests show that. How did you develop that? Did you always have an eye for things and said, that doesn't, I want to just see how this would look if there was, somebody turn on the lights, it's not right in here. How did that feel to you when you were thinking about a career when you would be surrounded by equipment and technology and a lot of lighting? How did that, in your mind when you were growing up and as a college student, how did you develop that eye? Or did you always have it where you knew that, I need to move this over here? Or
I mean, Aidan might have a more interesting answer than I do, but there wasn't really necessarily a moment. It's just something in my high school experience. I was part of their video production program, and editing was always my favorite, I think because you could polish dirt, I guess. Something about, I don't know, something about the process. I don't really have a...
No, it's taking that raw footage, even if you didn't capture it yourself, taking raw footage and making something out of it. You get a lot of
satisfaction
satisfaction from that. It is very creative. You do have to have an eye, and of course you can learn it. You can put in the hours and you can study how other people edit things, but it always comes down to the individual, how the editing style is. If I edit something, it's going to look completely different than how Tim edits something. I did a great exercise when I was in college about, they gave us the whole movie of Home Alone, and there was 10 of us around the room, and they said, make a movie trailer from Home Alone, but you're going to do it as a horror film, and you're going to do it as a comedy, and you're going to do it. So we had to use, you use different music, you use different scenes, you edit it together so that it's more creepy or it's more funny or it's, and it is that creativeness that some people are born with it. Some people, it's almost like an art form, Some people can pick up a paintbrush and paint the Sistine Chapel, and some people can't color within the lines.
Right, and we don't usually think of technical people, at least I didn't, because, left brain, right brain. I thought technical people must live in one side of their brain, and those who are more artistic and writers and painters live in another part of their brain. But from what I've seen of you working together and working here at the studio, you can see where the two blend.
It is a form of writing, video editing, I would say. I mean, both of us right now are working on some economic development committee videos, and what you're doing is you have this 10, sometimes 30 minutes of interview to somehow create a 2-minute story out of. And so you're taking this line, maybe splicing it with this other line, and you're creating something new that's still true to what the owner was speaking to, but making, I guess, a new story out of it.
So you are really using the word editing as an editor, not just cutting and pasting what you have, but making decisions about what fits together nicely. That's why you always make me look good, because, you know, I make a lot of mistakes. Your background has led you, or perhaps your interest in technology, but I heard that from when you were young, you were interested in theater and you were interested in the arts, and then the technology piece. So again, merging both sides of the brain is really fascinating to me to see how, because, you know, those of us who are not techie people have difficulty seeing how somebody who could know how to use all of this equipment could still be an artist. And I forget that this is part of art, but it's never categorized that way. So you've had a long history in the theater, and I went to see one of the performances that you directed for the Christmas season, and it was amazing. You did some really interesting things to the story, and you've also had some acting, and I've seen the picture, you know. Here he is, he played young Frankenstein. And also you were in another play recently, or in the past, that was something you had done that was really good, and I forgot the name of the play.
Well, I've been acting since 2011, so I've done I've had a lot of luck being able to play a few roles that I've really enjoyed. But even when I was younger, I come from a creative family. All of my family went to Aspa Valley over in Marlborough. We all went through the design and visual communications shop back when it was, I forget what it was actually called back then when my father and my mother went through it, digital art. But even when I was 5 years old, we had the video camera out and we were doing little, you know, we had our action figures and telling stories and things like that. So I started in the acting side of it, and it is an artwork, and mixing the technology, as technology changes, it's just a different medium. So it used to be that you would take film and cut it, and you'd have to splice it together, and it was an actual editing. And now that, I mean, it's technology, but it's computers, and it's just another way of you know,
Expression,
using.
yeah. I think that's where each of you have a different eye, and together you do create some very interesting, and you can almost tell who's editing, or, you know, who was filming it first, or who was editing it. And I really enjoy that. I do know that, just like Tim, you enjoy working with the high school kids, and you were in one of their productions recently, and you even sang, which I thought was amazing. And that connects the TV studio to the community as well, and making people more comfortable. If you're willing to take a risk in front of high school kids, then, you know, why not take a risk and come here? And I see their faces when they're coming in and out, and they just look like they've had a good time, but they learned something, you know. And that's always, to a teacher, the joy.
And Westborough TV, local access as a whole, has always been about being a soapbox for the community, soapbox for the you know, everyday people who have something they want to say, or something they want to show to the rest of the community. You know, an idea, a podcast, you know, something that means a lot to them and they want to share. And local access was built for the purpose of sharing, of giving the tools to share ideas and I think it's a very important thing, as well as, government transparency, things
Yeah.
like that, covering all those meetings, because if you're a select board member, you can't go to the planning board meeting, or you can't go to the school committee
Yeah.
meeting all the time. So being able to look back and watch those things helps you stay informed, helps you be a better member of society, because you're more informed and you're more connected.
So now let's switch the conversation over to the the general manager here, Karen. So, just between us, when she came to work here, because you were already here, what did she bring to the table? What was her gifts? What were her enthusiasms? That she said, okay, we're going to do this. What had been here before she arrived, and now what's here?
Karen brought so much energy. It really revitalized Westborough TV, because, sometimes you fall into little ruts of like, okay, this is what we cover. This is, what we do. And I feel like as soon as Karen started coming in, we started doing more, which is more work. Sometimes we don't want to get up at 7:30 to go tape something in the cold, in the ditches on the side of the road with the DPW, or we don't want to stay out late to cover a meeting or a concert or something like that. But she brought enough energy for us all to really want to dig in and connect to the community and make Westborough TV dependable, high quality, and definitely
Indispensable.
That's a good word for it.
But
So, what would you say? You've been here a year or
and
so?
a half, yeah, a year and a half. I
So,
think.
when you came into the establishment with two, and you were replacing someone who had left, what was your impression of how this was managed? Some places are micromanaged, and you just want to cry because they're standing over you constantly saying, you didn't get this done on time, you didn't do this. Karen doesn't have that kind of management style. So how did that fit your personality, and that you meshed so nicely into the group?
I think I could tell from the interview that it was going to be a good fit. Karen had showed me some of their old work, and it had impressed me a lot. It wasn't that local access between two ferns feel. It was, elevated from that. And that was something exciting, because obviously I wanted to, I just finished college, and I wanted to get better than where I was. I wanted something where I could be constantly evolving through editing, filming, and producing, I guess.
Yeah.
And this offered all of that, rather than picking a job where you're doing one thing, we're kind of doing everything. We're kind of a very small operation, which I think is good, because you have projects that you kind of take on all by yourself, and you really have to, prove yourself. And it's been great.
And so that's a good fit there as well. Well, we're wrapping up here for the timing. It has been so much fun working with you two, and with Karen, who's just a delight. I want to thank the board of directors, of course, for their commitment to keeping this organization, this nonprofit, up and running. And at the town meeting the other day, that the town voted for continuing support of the TV, because where else would I go for a good laugh? These two guys are professional, kind, but they have a really funny sense of humor, and we have a lot of laughs here, especially as I try to open the doors. I have a little problem with the doors, and they always make me feel welcome, and that they're willing, and they were not too happy about this idea. They're quiet guys, but you were wonderful, and I want people to know who's behind the camera. So thank you both for joining us, and we're going to wrap up with you two, and we're going to go visit the vault. I think you've left someone in there, and I want to check on her.
Oh,
so.
we should probably get her some air.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you. We'll be back in just a minute in the vault. Here we are back in the Westborough TV studio, but this time not in the studio, but in the vault. And in the vault, I found another employee. I think Aidan mentioned getting her some more air, and she looks okay. We're here today with Holly Van Wee, who is a part-time employee here at the Westborough TV, and she too does editing. She's currently working on her master's and working here and doing some freelance. So she's got outside work, inside work, and it's really sad they don't let you out of the vault.
Yeah, sometimes I have to ask permission to get out of the vault, but, it's most likely going to be a no.
Oh, it really is. And ironically, you and Tim were started out in kindergarten together. Perhaps that's why you're forced into the vault.
Right, yeah.
You
He
might
gets
have-
the desk up front, and I unfortunately get the vault, but that's okay.
Okay, now, what has been one of the most significant things you've done here of an editing or of a project that sticks out in your mind that you really enjoyed?
Sure, yeah. So starting in 2018, Karen and I started to co-produce a mini-series called Go Local Westborough. To this day, we are now at, I think, episode 10, and we've featured dozens of business owners across Westborough, and it's really gotten the word out on how important our local business community is here and how it's thriving and how much it's grown. So that's been one of the most significant projects I've worked on. It's gotten some national recognition as
great.
well, and has been nominated for a few Mass Creator Awards.
Oh.
We're still waiting on that working out as a full award, but it's been nominated 5 times, if you could believe that. Maybe 4, don't quote me on that. But yeah, so that's one of the best things that I've worked on here, but also all the lovely programming in our schools, recording concerts. It's also been a highlight here.
Right. Well, I know that there's several other people who work, as needed in the evening, and I only hope that they're not kept in the vault. I haven't even seen them around the building. It could be in the basement.
Well, Francisco's in the basement.
Oh, he is. Okay. Well, we'll have to check on him to see how he's doing. But I'm so glad that when I stopped by, I found you, and you were sitting in here wrapping up equipment and putting things away, and I do hope they let you out for air, and I am so glad to get to know you, and maybe we can work together on a project. I know that one of your real interests is environmental awareness and working in telling the story of the environment, and I'm sure there's going to be more interest as the years go by and climate change continues to change, and stories will be more important. So maybe before I'm too old to get out of the house, we can, I used to run an environmental nonprofit years ago, so the environment is important. And so we could do a little show on taking a novice out into the woods. I was a city kid, and they took me in the woods. And I personally planted 27 trees
Wow.
in
that's
27
fantastic, yeah.
schools over the time that I was there, the 13 years I ran the nonprofit. So thank you for all you do, and I'll speak to Tim and Aidan. Perhaps Karen doesn't know you're kept in the vault.
No, this is all Aidan's doing.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Kaleidoscope.